and welcome to the Factor Fantasy Football Podcast. I'm your host, Brent, but here with my buddy John.
Hey.
Welcome to the inaugural episode. And we're just going to go ahead and kick right into it with a bit of an exploration of the differences in our rankings, which you can find at youngbw.github.io. John, why don't you go ahead and kick us off with the first one, man?
All right. I want to just go random here, pick random guys, like not in any certain order. And the one I want to start with is Brandon Marshall, because I have him ranked 4 above you. And I just want to get your reasoning there. For you have him ranked at 18 for wide receivers. I have him at 14. I feel like both of us have him kind of low. Like he could even be higher. But yeah, what do you got for putting him there at 18?
Yeah, valid point, man. I am basically looking at the fact that Ryan Fitzpatrick is not signed to a contract yet. Now we all kind of assume he will be, but nothing's for sure in the NFL. So I'm looking at that. I'm thinking that last season was a bit of a fluke because he hasn't really while Brandon Marshall's a great receiver, he is in the later years, and Ryan Fitzpatrick really that was like his best season of his career. So I'm a little skeptical as to whether they can repeat that or not.
Okay, I feel that. Brandon Marshall, I think he's 31, 32. He's a big dude, but last year, his numbers are ridiculous. So, it could be a fluke. He had 174 targets, 14 touchdowns, 1,500 yards. And he was number 3 last year for fantasy points for all wide receivers. But like you said, that's contingent on Fitzpatrick having a monster season.
Right.
Which, side note, why is Fitzpatrick holding out a 3-year, $24 million deal? For what is he talking about? He does not deserve. He thinks I don't know. He wants to get paid like Luck or Wilson. It's not going to happen.
Yeah. You kind of feel for the guy when you see guys like Ryan Tannehill, Joe Flacco. Up till this Andrew Luck contract, Joe Flacco was the highest paid player in the league. No, come on.
I got it. That's fair. But I feel like 3 years, 24 mil. He had 12 mil guaranteed in the first year. It's still on the table. So, they haven't rescinded their offer. So we'll see where that goes. But, Brandon Marshall's a great receiver. But then you throw in, so let's say Fitzpatrick just, says, nah, I'm good. They pull up Geno Smith. He's the starter. So last year with Geno Smith, or not last year, in 2014, with Geno Smith as QB, Eric Decker, you could probably agree Eric Decker's not as good as Brandon Marshall, right? In terms of just raw talent, raw skill.
Sure.
I think, not talking fantasy, but raw skill, I'd say Brandon Marshall's a better receiver. Eric Decker had 1,000 yards. Only 5 touchdowns, but he had 1,000 yards with Geno. So I think Brandon Marshall with Geno, Brandon Marshall can still be a pretty solid receiver, pretty safe option. I don't know. That's where I'm at with Marshall.
Yeah, I'm picking up what you're laying down, man. I am looking at the stats here. He had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 games over 10 points for fantasy last year in standard leagues. Mm-hmm. That is consistent as hell, which you don't really find a lot. Even if Decker, even last year, I think he had, I want to say about a 10-game streak with no less than 9 points. So they were incredibly consistent. Yeah. And so even if you can get Decker-esque, production out of Brandon Marshall, I feel like you're sitting pretty good at where you're going to be able to get Brandon Marshall's at a, price tag wise in fantasy drafts here. If I'm going to go to the ADP trends and look at where we can find Brandon Marshall on here.
Just while you're doing that, I do think that's worth mentioning. Eric Decker, he had 12 touchdowns, which is insane for a number 2 receiver, and those were 12 different games. It's not like he had a game where he got 4. Right. He was just consistent.
Super consistent.
But
so the ADP for Brandon Marshall is overall pick 23, almost 24.
Okay.
So puts him kind of at the back of round 3.
Yeah.
Which is just a little rich for my blood. If I can get him on the swing, maybe in round 4, I'm feeling okay about that. But I feel like there's a lot more sure bets even behind him in that ADP range. Like the four or five receivers going after him right now are Alshon Jeffrey, Mike Evans, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, and Demarius Thomas.
Yeah, I'd take almost all of them over Brandon Marshall.
Right. So I think the price tag he's at right now is not going to really fit what we're expecting of his production, whether we've got him at 14 or 18. And let's see if I got him at 18. That's pretty much reflected in my rankings. Is you got Allen, Cooper, Evans, and Thomas are 4 out of the 6 receivers I've got above him.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, that's fair. I mean, I have him at 14. It is contingent upon Fitzpatrick, whatever. I don't even know what he's doing. So if he does have Geno, yeah, there's no way I would pick him third round. I'd pick all the guys I have above him, like, Keenan Allen, Jordy Nelson, Mike Evans, Robinson, all those. I would still pick like Edelman maybe over Marshall if Marshall has Geno, but Brandon Marshall would still be a good receiver. He'd just be lower tier.
Yeah, that's such a big factor, whether it's Geno or Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, there's a big drop off there on skill.
I feel like Geno has he's got his supporters, but I am not on the Geno coaster.
No, so that kind of, I don't know. I want to go to one of my other standout receivers that I found on our list or discrepancy. My man Jarvis Landry last year got me tons of points in fantasy. I found out. I mean, he got a lot of receptions. So if he was in PPR, if you're in a PPR league, Jarvis Landry is a stud because he was third place in the NFL behind who? Antonio Brown and Julio Jones. Like those are beast wide receivers, and he's right there with them for receptions.
Right, kind of sneaky. Had a ton of receptions last year.
Yeah,
just not a lot of touchdowns, which kind of is the curse of the Dolphins there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really going to come down to I think how much Devontae Parker matures this year. Like if he can really fill that role that they wanted Mike Wallace last year to fill, and kind of stretch the field a bit, get Jordan Cameron a little bit more involved, and kind of take some of the pressure off that like middle of the field, so defenses aren't really like pressing down, and kind of like condensing into a shorter amount of yardage, but without getting the top taken off of them.
Right.
I think you could see a lot of good things from Jarvis Landry. I think I definitely have him a little low. I got him below Golden Tate, which is a little blasphemous, I would say. So you'll probably see me moving him up at least a couple spots. I think there might be even some shuffling to be done here.
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, because I got in order. I got John Brown, Julian Edelman, Golden Tate, Jarvis Landry, and Jarvis I think has the potential to be the best out of those, with maybe the exception of John Brown.
Yeah. I mean, so like you touched on it, Jarvis Landry last year got 4 touchdowns. In 2014, he got 5 touchdowns. So the man isn't, scoring 6 every game.
Right.
He's getting yards and targets. Like he's getting looked at. He had 165 targets. That's absolutely insane.
Yeah, that's up tops of the league.
You compare that to like, I don't know, anyone on the Seahawks, any receiver on the Seahawks, he has more than double their targets, I'm sure. I'm pulling that number out of nowhere. It might be false, but I'd bet it's true. I wouldn't
argue with you.
The point is he gets looked at a lot, but like you said, defenses are going to know that, so they need their rookie to step up. He might. He's a good guy. He's a good player. There's all those questions about fitting into the system, learning the system, all that. So for sure, the first few games, Jarvis Landry is still going to be the crutch. They're still going to lean on Jarvis Landry. I would just like them to see them stretch the field a little more. Like 165 targets is great, but he had 4 touchdowns. But still, I think he's a solid option, especially if you're in PPR league. Like he's a no-brainer in a PPR league.
Yeah, he's going to be first couple rounds for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Looking at his ADP right now, in standard leagues, you're looking at 38, so back of the 4th, which seems fairly appropriate. PPR leagues, you probably see him go probably a round earlier, maybe up towards the back of the 3rd round.
For sure.
Just because the wide receiver class is so deep this year. We've got, 7 to 10 just stud guys at the top.
Mm-hmm.
And we still have, about 5 or 6, elite running backs too. So we're going to have them, Gronk, few QBs. I would imagine that Jarvis is going to land somewhere in the middle of the third round there.
Yeah, I could see that.
One thing I like to keep in mind with when I'm thinking Dolphins is the fact that Ryan Tannehill's he's not really a young guy anymore. It's like I feel like there's like this
I know.
perpetual stigma of just he's gonna eventually kind of get better, and
Right.
we just haven't seen that. And he's been in the league, 6-7 years now, and he's actually kind of sneaky old. Um, let's see if I can find actually how old is.
So in that way, I think this guy that I'm going to mention is better than Tannehill by far. But Matt Ryan, I kind of think the same thing. Like, he has so much potential, but it hasn't been put together. Whether it's the offensive line down in Atlanta, injuries, whatever it is. I see what you're saying there. It's like he's kind of like a parallel. Like they came in young and so much talent, and they've kind of just maintained.
Right. Yeah. Look at so I'm looking at Ryan Tannehill's age 27. Feels like he's been in the league for 10 years already. But every year you kind of have the same narrative with him, right? You have the same like, okay, we've improved the O line, we've got the running back, which was Lamar Miller, no longer in town.
Right.
We've got this and this receiver, but it's just it never really seems to kind of come together. And I really don't feel like this year is going to be much different. So I think while Jarvis Landry can maybe move up a couple spots in my rankings, I feel like maybe the highest I'd ever have him is around that 20 mark, kind of flirting with the top 24 receivers there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I got that. Um, so let's move up a little bit on quality of receiver here. Not that those guys are bad, but let's go up towards the top. Let's go. I don't know. There's a pretty big discrepancy in your boy Jordy Nelson.
Yes, there is. We got a five rank discrepancy.
Jordy Nelson had saved me a couple years back on fantasy. He saved me in so many games. That back shoulder fade, it takes it 80 yards, gets a touchdown. It seems like a couple years ago, he was almost guaranteed to get a long touchdown of over like 40 yards.
Yeah, man. He has a little cutback on the sideline. He's
Yeah,
gone.
him and Rogers have that down. But then August comes around, boom, ACL's gone. I mean, you got him up there, what, top 6? Let me look again. Yeah, you got him at number 6.
Yep.
I got him down there at 11. I got him to watch, though. Player to watch.
Yep,
So,
if you guys looking at our rankings, we've got a little W with a circle on our rankings. That's watch candidates. These are just guys we're paying attention to throughout the training camp and preseason, keeping an eye on, see if we want to move them up or down.
right. So my thought with Jordy, he's a stud. He's so good. 11 with a healthy Jordy. That's the Packers offense is healthy. He doesn't deserve to be at 11. He's higher than that. But I have him at 11 because he's tore his ACL in August. It's been a long time. He's had a lot of time to recover. But you hear a lot talk about football shape. Is he back in football shape? Is he confident in his knee? Is he ready to do that back shoulder fade, take a hit, his knee hold up? So obviously you're confident in it, right?
I am. I have maybe an unfounded amount of confidence in him, but it's just one of those players where you kind of have the feeling. He injured his ACL, but he did it really early in the preseason last year. Yeah. He's had a full year to really get back, and even at this point in the year, he doesn't really have to rush back. He's a veteran, and he doesn't really need to have like the getting the reps that the younger guys do, and we saw it with AP, a year ago, that taking a year off can sometimes actually improve. The next year when he come back, you get a little rest, let some of those aches heal. And I feel like he's going to come back. He's going to get back on the same page with Rodgers, and you'll have Cobb. Cobb was actually a little banged up too. Cobb will be healthy this year on the inside. Hopefully, one of those other guys, either Montgomery or Jeff Janis or maybe Devontae Parker can or Devontae.
Are you talking about Miami?
No, I'm not. I'm talking about the third guy. We're in,
I thought you were thinking about
Devontae Adams. That's who I'm thinking
Adams,
of.
yeah.
Yeah. One of them can step up, and we can see like the Packers offense of 2014. Now, a couple of reasons why I've got him a little bit higher even with that, is the Packers' schedule this year is
it's ridiculous.
One of the easiest. Just to run off a couple. See, the first 8 games are Jacksonville, Minnesota, Detroit. with a bye week 4. Then you got
Mm.
the Giants, the Cowboys, the Bears, the Falcons, the Colts, and Tennessee. So like that's just to start. The fantasy playoffs you're looking at. Actually, you're not. That's a little bit rougher. You got Seattle, and then you got Chicago, which is all right, and then you got the Minnesota Vikings. So it's kind of a wild card there. A lot of
Hmm.
people are thinking they're going to be pretty strong, but for the majority of the season, you're looking pretty solid. Maybe you can get a really solid start of them, trade them midway.
Hmm.
But yeah, I don't just something the amount of time he's had and the amount of success we've seen him have in the league thus far. I would not put him much lower than that, but I think you hit the nail on the head with the watch status. I think I got to have him as a watch.
Yeah, and so I mean, he's proven when he's healthy and he's on the team, Aaron Rodgers is a leading candidate for MVP, like no brainer. Because having Jordy on the field, just there's so much pressure. He's just going to burn you and go deep. If they need a first down, they can do that back shoulder fade. He's durable. He's consistent. And so, I mean, you look at when Aaron Rodgers had him in 2014, he almost had 4,400 yards, 38 touchdowns, and only 5 interceptions. But you still look at Aaron Rodgers without him, 31 touchdowns, 8 interceptions. So, I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I don't even need to say this. Aaron Rodgers is he's an all-time great. So then throw in Jordy, a healthy Jordy, and I'll definitely move him up. So I'll definitely, I mean, I have him as watch. I'll keep him there. I want to see how he is during camp and stuff, see if he's confident in that knee, and see what other players say. Not because, of course, Jordy's going to say he's fine, but I don't know. Hear what the media says when they go to the practices and see him running around. So a couple
Yeah.
weeks here, right? Like 2 weeks, I think, in the report. So or some.
Yep. They'll
So
start kind of coming in
poking
waves, but yeah,
around. So we'll see. I mean, he saved me a couple years in a row, so he's someone I have a little bias towards.
he's a strong play. I'll tell you one thing that I'm going to try and do this year. I'm kind of giving a little bit away for my draft strategy right here. Is I want to come away with at least, and I'm saying at least one Packer on my team. I'm either Aaron Rodgers, Jordy, or Eddie Lacy. I'm very high on Eddie Lacy this year.
You are.
So I want one of those three guys, if at all possible. Actually, I'm looking at the ADP right now for Jordy and Aaron. Jordy's looking at around 17, and Aaron's looking at 21. And so you could actually have a situation there where maybe you hit, maybe you're hitting the first round. You're one of the first few picks in the first round, so you get like a Le'Veon Bell or a Todd Gurley, and then you come back around and you're hitting a Jordy Aaron Rodgers swing on the second and third round.
That'd be really smart to do. That'd be
That's a pretty
Yeah.
good 1, 2, 3. You got three elite players. Now that's assuming Jordy's got looks like he has a juice back, but
yeah.
you can always hit someone else there at the end of the second round too. But for Aaron Rodgers to be going at the beginning of the third round, and I feel like you hear a lot of analysts talk, and they're always about taking QBs late. And you see me draft, I take QBs, quote unquote late, but late for me is more like round 6, round 7.
Right.
I'm not waiting until round 10 in a standard league, because you see in fan leagues you see a lot of those quarterbacks go a lot sooner.
You do.
So I'm very surprised to see Aaron Rodgers at the beginning of the third round, and if you can get him there, I feel like you're about to win a fantasy league, because you got a stud running back
that means
or two.
the rest of
and
your team is stacked.
Yeah, and one of the best quarterbacks. If I would be surprised if he's not the top quarterback this year, just because of that strength of schedule and the fact that he does a little bit of running, but his passing is going to be off the charts again with his receiving core back and healthy. And Eddie Lacy trimmed down and kind of pounded in the middle. And don't be forgetting about those screen passes either.
True. So let's hop into that. Let's shift from receiver for now. We'll go to that debate, the Aaron Rodgers, Cam Newton 1-2. I mean, because we both have Cam 1 and Aaron 2. I feel like those can be changed pretty easily, and no one would argue.
Sure.
My only argument there. So Cam's gonna get points without having. I guess Kelvin Benjamin's coming back from ACL. So is Jordy. So you got that similarity there for both those quarterbacks.
Mm-hmm.
But like you said, Aaron, he'll run. He'll get a first down. He'll get 32 yards in a game, and you'll be pumped. Like Aaron Rodgers got 32 rushing yards. Cam's gonna run, it's a high percentage he's going to run for a touchdown or he'll bust a big run.
Yeah, we had another 10 rushing touchdowns last year.
Right.
Led the league as far as quarterbacks go in rushing with I think about 800 yards.
Yeah, it's like 800.
I think you're pretty much going to see. I mean, every year he's played, he's actually been a top. I want to say 4 quarterback, Cam Newton, and it's all because of that rushing. And as long as they let him keep pounding it in the middle there, when they get close to the goal line, I don't think you're going to see him fall. I I'm actually a lot higher on Kelvin Benjamin than I think a lot of people are.
Yeah, you are.
I think he's kind of a sneaky play. I think he's kind of almost a sleeper,
Okay.
just because I think you can be able to get him so late comparatively where he'll perform that he'll be a steal.
All right.
But the Panthers' offense as a whole, I'm not sure can do much better than it did last year. You know what I'm saying? He was on. Ted Ginn dropped about 10 touchdown passes.
He got 10, which is crazy. That's crazy.
And he still got 10 in the end zone. Greg Olsen had a career year. You had really good output from Jonathan Stewart, and even Mike Tolbert down low. And I don't know if like adding Kelvin Benjamin, getting him with what's the rookie guys last year? Funchess, Devin Funchess.
Yeah, Devin Funchess.
Getting them on the outsides, kind of a twin tower sort of ideal that the Bucks have had going on.
Mike Evans, my boy.
Yeah, I don't know if that's going to make them like that much better statistically. I
Okay.
think they'll be much harder to handle, like on a game by game basis for like real life NFL.
But fantasy.
But for
you're saying.
fantasy, I'm not sure we'll see crazy jumps for Cam. I think we'll see him pretty much regress a little bit towards the mean, but still be up there. And I'd be surprised if Aaron and him aren't 1-2 this year.
So you think Benjamin's going to take away some productivity from Ted Ginn, for sure?
Yeah, I think Ted Ginn's going to kind of be the forgotten man. I
Fizzle
think,
out. Okay.
Yeah, I think we'll see Benjamin come back and look like he did his rookie year.
And then
Now his
Funchess.
rookie year, he actually had a ton of drops. He actually caught a surprisingly low percentage of his passes. I want to say something like in the 55 to 60% range. So if he improves on that, and that's very Ted Ginn like a him.
Yeah.
So
That
if he improves
Ugh.
on that, I think we'll see him on one side doing really well, and I think we'll see Funchess, who was kind of more raw. I think we'll see him come in this year a little bit more cleaned up and do really well as a second fiddle on the other side. I think if you think of Ted Ginn, I think we'll see him more in like the this is kind of out of left field, but in the Aldrich Robinson kind of role, where
Yeah,
you just
left field right there, man.
yeah, man, you just stick him in there for like a 3rd and 20, and just have him burn down the field and toss it up, and we'll see him. I think every 3-4 games we'll see him score like a 50-yard touchdown or something.
Wow.
But like other than that, it's gonna be one of those guys where you just really can't predict it. So I don't really like to have those guys on my fantasy team. I'm not sure about you, but I like to be able to somewhat predict what I'm gonna have happen, that week.
Yeah. I mean, Ted, he's going to burn, some coverages here and there. He's a fast dude. He'll get those big touchdowns, but he won't be consistent. And that's kind of my hesitation on Carolina's offense is they're not consistent. They're consistent in how dominant they are, but they spread it out. It's Jonathan Stewart on the goal line. It's Mike Tolbert on the goal line. Cam's going to do a sneak on the goal line or maybe some play action bootleg and he'll run it in. I mean, I just don't trust that offense for fantasy because they're just going to spread out all the points too much. Kelvin Benjamin's a huge receiver. He's 6'5". I think he's 6'5".
Yeah.
He's a big dude. He's going to get in there kind of like Mike Evans-esque or Calvin Johnson and just out-muscle some of these cornerbacks that are 5'9", 175 pounds. But to me, you'd probably disagree on this. I'd take Jarvis Landry over Kelvin Benjamin because I know what I'm getting with Jarvis Landry. I don't know what I'm going to get with Kelvin Benjamin. I know he's great. Well, I know he's good, maybe not great, but I know Jarvis Landry is going to be consistent. He's going to get those looks. He's going to catch the ball. So I would take Jarvis over Kelvin.
Wow. Yeah, I
Yeah.
definitely
like it?
disagree with that, but that's okay.
All right, man.
So let's move up to the running backs real quick. Let's
Cool.
kind of burn through this one. We're kind of running out of time here, but I want to talk about C.J. Anderson and Jeremy Hill kind of in tandem.
Let's do it.
We're 4 apart on both of
Both.
them,
Hmm.
and they're kind of a similar style, guys that had a lot of success really early, and then kind of like Jeremy Hill more so had kind of a fizzle year last year. CJ had kind of a injury plagued year last year, but then finished really strong. Had a really strong postseason. And right now we're looking at Jeremy Hill going basically at the front of the 7th round, and CJ Anderson going at the 10, 20, 30, back like the front of the 4th. And I'm just kind of flabbergasted by the values there. See, we've got him ranked. We've got him ranked at 10 and 14 for C.J. Anderson's respectively, and Jeremy Hill's at 17 and 20 respectively.
Yep.
So if I got him at as my 10th running back, and you've got him as your 14th, to get him at the front of that 4th round, that is crazy. So what are your expectations for Anderson in the Broncos offense this year?
So, okay. CJ Anderson, we'll stick with him for right now. He has some injury history. You know, he's been injured here and there. Nothing
Major, but yeah,
nothing,
it's just kind of nitpicky things, keeping him kind of almost perpetuating his like running back by committee status.
Yeah, exactly. That Denver's been rolling with. So of course the Denver quarterback situation. Like, are we gonna have Mark Sanchez,
Right.
Paxton Lynch? Like, what's happening there? Let's say it is. I've never been a fan of Sanchez. I don't know. I haven't actually asked you how you feel about Sanchez. So let's just roll. Say it's Sanchez.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a scary dude to have there. You know, Sanchez lining up in shotgun. That's not a scary thing. I don't know, to most defenses maybe. How much are they going to have to lean on C.J. Anderson?
Well, I hope a lot.
Well,
yeah,
the defenses will know that. Like,
right.
you got
right.
Demarius Thomas, Emmanuel Sanders out there. Like, Denver's no slouch on offense, except the quarterback. So C.J. Anderson has a good career average. It's 4.8 yards. Like, the man's good. He can run.
That's solid.
His touchdowns, nothing crazy, nothing to write home about. He doesn't get that many touchdowns.
It feels like he kind of comes upon those in like spurts. Like he'll kind of hit a bunch in a row. Like at the end of last year, he went like 5 games with a run over 25 yards and a touchdown. But then at the beginning of the year, you know, he's splitting with Ronnie, and really they weren't getting down to the goal line that much really to begin with. So I don't think he had a lot of opportunities.
And I'm also receptions. I mean, he's not like a Matt Forte or anything. He can catch the ball. He has a good average. His career average for receiving is 8.5 yards. Like, it's not bad.
That is not bad.
He doesn't get that many yards per season. And I do think that the lack of quarterback experience, regardless of who they go with, I'm calling out Sanchez saying he doesn't have experience, but whatever. Plus the addition of Devontae Booker, their rookie, and the weapons they already have. I mean, I just don't see him getting. Let's see, how many receptions did he get last year? Where's he at? He had 40 targets almost, 25 receptions. He's not getting that. Still a really good back. You get him in open field, he's going to burn you. I don't know. I might have to move him around, see where he's at. I have him at 14. I mean, I do have Latavius Murray under C.J. Anderson, which in hindsight is pretty bad. I think Latavius Murray is going to be a workhorse this year. But, I don't know. I guess CJ is just up in the air. I'll have to see. That offense is a question mark to me. Demarius Thomas is a question mark. Emmanuel Sanders is a question mark. So we'll see.
Yeah, it really all kind of revolves around how that quarterback situation plays out. I don't think anyone would be surprised, you know, if we see Mark Sanchez as a week 1 starter, but then maybe week 4 rolls around or they hit the bye and we see Paxton Lynch kind of get his shot. Paxton Lynch is a lot more mobile than Brock Osweiler was, even though they were roughly similar height.
Yeah.
Which is pretty rare to see a tall guy like that be able to move. So I think Kubiak's offense will work a little better. Now this is me kind of being a homer, but Mark Sanchez, I'm kind of in the camp. Now Peyton Manning, he's one of my favorite players of all time, and we're gonna miss the general, but
Yeah, hold on. Let me insert that you're a huge Denver fan.
yeah,
So
no
let it
worries.
be known.
It will be known. It couldn't be hidden for long, but
True.
yeah. So Mark Sanchez, I feel like won't do. It couldn't possibly do much worse than Peyton was doing at the beginning of last season.
Oh wow.
I mean,
Nice.
Peyton and Brock actually together combined to have the 31st worst QBR rating of the entire NFL. Not to mention the O-line issues and the fact that Peyton really can't run Kubiak's offense. Like the boot action,
Yeah,
that's
I
not
know.
Peyton's bag, right? So
No.
now Kubiak's offense has never really excited me, even in his Houston days.
Aaron Foster.
Now, yeah, you had the one guy. That's why I'm kind of high on Anderson. Is you have that one guy who's like really crushing it.
All right.
Hopefully that's CJ. Like you mentioned Devontae Booker. I was watching some of his highlights and so I'm a little afraid that he would eat into some playing time for CJ.
Yeah, definitely.
If you see me draft CJ, you're probably going to see me draft Devontae Booker a little earlier than others might, just to make sure I get that handcuff too.
Yeah.
Because even though he's a rookie, I think he's the clear role backup. Even though kind of like a Jawan Thompson sort of thing from last year, where it's like you have CJ, and then you have Ronnie technically second, but you've also got Jawan, or in this case Devontae Booker, is the third guy who's really more of the power back behind CJ.
Yeah.
So you'll probably see me pick both of them up. And I think we'll see, the running back that's featured do really well. But I have no idea what QBX got in store for a passing offense because, thinking about Andre Johnson,
Right.
the thing about him was you always had, he'd get 1,700 receiving yards, but he'd have like 4 touchdowns.
Yeah.
So it's a little bit interesting. I wouldn't say that him and Demaryius are ballistically similar players, but they do kind of have
No,
similar
not at all.
size.
Yeah.
So I'll be interested to see how he uses them. One thing I will point out about Denver while we're on the subject is the tight end they actually drafted last year, who he was injured for the entire year during the preseason. Was a bit of a high draft pick back then, and I think he could be kind of an interesting, sneaky, like 15th round pick for anybody that's not about taking those tight ends super early.
You want to name drop him for the people?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot now. I think it's Tyler Heerman. Let me look him up and I'll get back to it in a minute here.
All right. Testing that Denver knowledge.
Yeah.
So I don't know. You sold Anderson to me a little bit. I've never been. I don't think I've ever drafted Anderson. Because they had that tandem going. That backfield was crowded. That offense was just nuts. The skills they had on the offense all over the field, tight end, everything. So I just stayed away from Anderson. But you sold me a little bit this year for sure. So I might have to reevaluate. We'll see. Maybe I'm a little bit of a Denver fan now. We'll see.
I think he's a good watch candidate. See how he
fair.
does in the new offense with Mark Sanchez and or Paxton Lynch, as it were, and see how much Devontae Booker is going to be involved. I think that whole offense is almost a watch candidate. But
Yeah.
I think But I'm excited for the prospect that he'll be healthy, and I'm excited that when he's been healthy, he's been really good.
Yeah.
And that's Jeff Hewerman.
That's right on.
Yeah.
Nice investigative work.
Yep. No worries.
Let's blast through a couple of these other rankings. Just quick little couple sentences here. Unless you want to expand on Mike Evans because he's my boy. So actually, I got to look at the list. See where you have Mike Evans. I know I was upset.
I got him
with
at
it.
13.
Yeah, I think I'm upset with that.
So he's right below. For me, it goes Alshon, T.Y. Hilton, Kelvin Benjamin, Demaryius Thomas, Mike Evans.
No, Mike Evans.
I think Mike Evans, honestly, I think I do need to move him. I'll probably move him up I might swap him and Demarius,
Okay.
just because he's going to have a lot more vertical. At least thinking of the offenses, the
Hmm.
Bucks offense could be a lot more vertical, and with Jameis going into second year, I think they're going to trust him a lot more. Um, but I'm not really seeing anyone else I really want to move him above. Maybe Kelvin. You can make an argument for Kelvin because he's
Hmm.
coming back off injury. Um, but
You won't.
if you're putting both in a vacuum and you're talking to me about a 100% healthy Kelvin Benjamin on the Panthers versus a 100% healthy Mike Evans on the Bucks, I'll probably take Kelvin if it were
Mm,
me.
all
But
right.
they're really close in my mind.
No, that's
Um,
fair.
After that, I can't really justify getting him above like Allen Robinson or
Hmm.
Jeffrey. Yeah, I think they're kind of all in that pocket right there. But I think I'm fairly satisfied with the order, unless you're talking Demarius or Kelvin there.
Okay. Um, yeah, I mean, Mike Evans, like you said, Jameis Winston's going into his second year. They'll trust him a little bit to handle the offense. Even last year, Mike Evans had 150 targets, almost 147. To be fair, he did drop a few, pretty bad.
Yeah, I remember there's
But
games he had like 20 targets in the game and
hmm
but like only 10 or 11 catches, but it was like still putting up monster numbers because he is just getting targeted so much.
yeah, he'll.
When Vincent was out, I think specifically.
Yep, I remember that. But so you look at the one downfall of Mike Evans, which is probably keeping you from putting him above some of those guys you mentioned. He had 3 touchdowns last year.
Yeah, which was weird. I
He's
remember
a
the
huge guy. I think he's 6'5", 6'6".
yeah,
He's
and it was kind of in direct opposition to what happened the year before, whereas
he had 12.
he had 12 touchdowns, and it was always like he wasn't really involved on the way down the field, but as soon as they
Right.
got near the red zone, it was like let's just throw it up to Mike, you know. Um, so
Yeah.
yeah, well, let's be interested to see how that goes from to start the year. Um, if he starts off slowly, he could be an excellent buy low candidate.
Okay.
So, for example, if you've got someone like, let's say, Brandon Marshall might be a great one. Brandon Marshall's he's crushing it at the beginning of the year. Mike Evans is a little slow, starting a little slow. Bucks offense just taking a little bit to get going. Um, but maybe if you're more comfortable with Mike Evans, but you weren't able to get him in the draft, maybe you trade week 3, week 4, just
Hmm.
straight up those two players. Um, but for now, yeah, I think Mike's the better choice there, and I don't think there's any way he gets 3 touchdowns again. I think you're going to see,
No, yeah, there's no way.
yeah, somewhere. I think we'll see somewhere close to maybe 1,200 yards, and maybe like 8 touchdowns or so.
Yeah, I mean, 1,200 yards, I buy that. 8 touchdowns, I'm feeling that's pretty low, man. I could see 10.
You could see 10.
10
It might
touchdowns.
be right in that range.
Vincent Jackson's getting old. He's not going to take touchdowns away from Mike Evans. You know,
Right.
Vincent Jackson, he's solid. He has a good pair of hands. He's a big dude, just like Mike Evans. You
Austin
kind of know
Jenkins kind of being a goon.
Safarian Jenkins. He's been all he's going to have a good year this year, Safarian Jenkins. But anyways, Mike Evans, one to watch. Hard to rank the top 10 receivers. They're all so good. They're interchangeable, and it just varies by week. You know who's healthy, who they're playing. So we'll keep going on that, keep updated on that. Although there is one more receiver I want to hit, and that was our biggest difference, Michael Crabtree.
I was looking at that one too.
Why
Yeah.
you hating on the Crabtree?
You know what? Wow. Yeah. So we get a nine player or 9 rank difference in Michael Crabtree. I've got him at 38. John's got him at 29.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and he was actually better than Amari last year. Amari Cooper, he started out strong, but kind of with Derek Carr's decline, like Derek Carr also started strong and kind of like mellowed out towards the end of the year.
He did.
And Amari kind of had some injuries too. Um, but in his second year, I just feel like Amari Cooper is going to take that leap, and someone's got to suffer. I feel like Michael Crabtree's going to go down. Now, I feel like I've definitely got him low because I've got him below, rookie guys like Sterling Shepard, Corey Coleman.
Yeah.
I've got him below VJax. I've got him below Willie Snead. So I think we might see a rise from Mr. Crabtree in my rankings here.
Okay.
Probably going to go up somewhere close to Decker. Yeah. So you might see him rise about 5 spots in my rankings, but we kind of hit a spot there where it's a lot of backups or a lot of wide receiver twos on various teams. And as much as I think that Amari's going to take off this year, it's got to come from somewhere. So
Yeah.
I'm also somewhat high on Clive Walford, their tight end. I think he's going to get a lot more involved.
Okay.
So I think Crabtree, while I don't think he'll do poorly. I think he'd be a kind of a nice like mid-round pickup if you need like a wide receiver 3, just a guy you can plug and play on like bye weeks and stuff, and not really have a lot of worries about that. I do think he's going to take a fairly big step back because he kind of had a surprisingly good season last year.
Right. Let me give you some numbers. 85 catches, 920 yards, 9 touchdowns. That surprised me. He had 146 targets. Like Carr was looking for him all over the field, even having Latavius Murray there in the backfield, who's, I mean, he surprised me last year. As a side note,
Yeah, yeah, he had a good year, and I mean, the Raiders O line's actually got even better this year.
dude.
So I
Yeah, I'm
think we'll
on.
see Carr have a lot of time and
Yep.
be able to put the ball more on point, and not to mention just have another year under his belt where you can kind of get into tune with his receivers. Uh, last year Michael Crabtree's first year in Oakland,
No, he went there in 14, didn't he?
second year.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, he'll have another year to get used to him and gain more rapport. Um, so you know what, he might repeat those numbers. I thought his yards were actually a little higher.
Okay.
Like it seemed.
Real quick, it was his first year there. I'm bad.
Okay, no worries. uh, I had thought his yards was a little higher than I thought he broke 1,000, but
Almost. He's there.
yeah, he's right there. So I think that he has a pretty good chance of repeating those. If not just a small regression, but yeah, definitely doesn't. I don't think it justifies a him being below a few of those guys on my list.
All right, cool. I called you out and it worked.
Yeah, you did. It
Um,
worked.
in the for the sake of time, let's move on to the top 100. I'm sure everyone's seen that. The players voted on the top 100, and they released it all. It's all out. But let's just talk about a few that are in the higher numbers, like 81 to 100. Anyone there stand out to you? Like they shouldn't be there, or they're too high, too low, or they're just right? What do you think about anyone there?
Well, I know you are very upset about Andrew Luck, and I
Thank
would
you.
I would agree.
Yeah, I'm
Um,
heated right now.
so I've actually got Andrew Luck as my number 3 quarterback, I believe, and you've got him as your number 4.
Yeah, he's 4.
Yeah, he's 4. And I feel like people are just taking that one half season he had where, he's banged up, he had a shoulder thing,
He had his lacerated kidney.
lacerated kidney. I mean, he's just trying to run too much on Denver. Let's be honest now. But
It's he was so Andrew Luck's a big quarterback. He's athletic.
yep,
He's obviously smart. He's willing to take a hit, which okay, that could be bad or good, Taking a hit, end up like Michael Vick or something.
yeah. You don't want to Robert Griffin the third. You want to like
Ben Roethlisberger.
yeah. You don't want to take every hit you can. But I think if you find a happy medium between like maybe Ben Roethlisberger and Russell Wilson, because Russell, he kind of gets out of the way pretty quick. He's one of the better quarterbacks that's just kind of ducking out.
Yeah.
So I think if he found a kind of a happy medium, I think he did it really well like 2 years ago, where he had a fair amount of rushing touchdowns for his style of play, and got those needed first downs, but really wasn't taking a beating while doing it. He'll be see a lot more longevity this year. But we say he was at 91.
92.
92.
It's insane.
That is insane. And you see, I think on this list, you see a lot of guys drop quite dramatically when they've got seasons like that where they like have an injury plagued season or
Right. Throw all those interceptions that he threw in half a season.
right. Yeah, he was kind of challenging Peyton for the
Yeah,
the
they're
lead
going
there.
at it.
Yeah, so like even like Le'Veon Bell, you'll see him in like kind of the mid 40s, I think, later in the list. But and like Peyton Manning a couple years ago when he had his year off with the neck surgery, it was surprising he was on the list regardless, which is just kind of testament to his ability and respect people have for him around the league. But I think he dropped to kind of the 50s that year, and then the very next year he has part of the best offense in NFL history, so he went right back up to the
Right.
number 1 or 2. So I think Luck will have a much improved year this year, and there's kind of two camps. It seems like he's either going to be terrible. There's like this like weird, really outspoken group of people that think he's going to be terrible, and I
Whatever.
think there's then there's like the rest of us who think he's going to really bounce back and have a great year. And that's the camp I'm in, and I think we'll see him much higher on the list next year.
Dude, it's no question to me. I don't know where those people are coming from. Like what he has weapons. He's so smart. He's been in the league for 4 years now. Like this is coming up on his fifth. Like you look at his numbers from 2014. The kid almost had 5,000 yards and 40 touchdowns.
Yeah,
Last year he was on pace for 37 touchdowns.
which
Like
by any standard is not too bad at all. Like
no,
that's
and he'll run for a handful more. Not many yards, probably below 300 this year. Especially with the way he was taking hits last year, maybe
yep.
pull
Trying
him,
to
pull
keep
him on
him
the sidelines. Like keep that number below 250 for yards. But he's going to run
right.
for a handful of touchdowns. He's going to throw for at least 35 touchdowns. He's going to throw for well over 4,000 yards. That's just how the Colts offense works. He's going to be
What I
he's
think
just going to be a really good pick.
what I think they need to do is I mentioned Robert Griffin before is don't get like they did for Robert Griffin, which is you know really start getting into nitpicking his game.
Yeah.
And he's not he's not a guy that's scrambling around a ton like when he doesn't need to. But you
No.
see a lot of these like mobile guys, they have this an injury or something, and the next year it's all about okay, we're trying to keep him in the pocket and really want him to stay in there and go through his reads. I'm like, you don't want to change it up on him too much. The
That's a good
quarterbacks
point.
they've gone through their lives and they have a certain play style, and even growing up for myself, it's like if I was playing football, it's like I want to play free, I want to play loose. I don't need to be thinking. The more you think, the worse you do, right? So the more you thinking, he's thinking about being in the pocket and going through reads, the worse he's going to do.
Yeah.
So he doesn't really tend to run too much anyways. So I think if they just kind of take last year for what it was and don't try and overcorrect, I think we're going to see an awesome season.
I agree, man. I don't know why he's ranked so low. Well, if it's solely off last year, I guess it makes sense. But
Yeah,
I'm still heated about it. Whatever.
right.
So
Yeah, the players list unfortunately is subject to year by year bias.
yeah, but you also got to add in, like you said, that respect. Like I mean, I watched some videos on it, some players talking about it, and they were like, make no mistake about it, Luck's going to be a top quarterback, top three quarterback in the next few years, and I think everyone knows that. I just think it'll happen pretty soon here. But
Fair enough.
one last thing, at least I want to point out, see if you want to, finish it up, anything. But we already talked about him. I just got to drop it because I'm still pretty fired up about it. Jarvis Landry at number 98. Get out of here. I want to find who are the players that ranked him because they clearly weren't defensive backs. No, they might have been, but he had 165 targets.
Yeah, no, his numbers
He
are way
keeps
better
the
than
defense
98.
busy. Yeah, he'll keep you busy. You have to plan for Jarvis Landry.
I
You
think he
don't.
suffers from a little bit of the Odell Beckham shadow because
Mhm.
they went to college together and they both do these like kind of one-handed crazy catches
Yeah,
but
their
Odell
hair
Beckham's
is
in a
funny.
right and they're both Odell Beckham's in an offense where he's going to stretch the field, he's going to be asked to make these catches, whereas Landry's being used a lot more as like an underneath guy.
Yeah,
So
like
it's
a
just
vice
going to
blocker.
naturally kind of be okay. Well, the better of the two is Odell, right? So I feel like Landry kind of is the forgotten guy in that equation.
Hmm. Yeah,
Um, but yeah, he definitely deserves to be above 98 and like above people
dude, he's
like
below
Kirk Cousins.
Baldwin.
Uh, yeah, Baldwin had maybe the best 3 game stretch that any receivers had in history, but
But let's not put that on
three.
Baldwin. Let's put
Yeah,
that on Lynch, Wilson, like that. That was a team effort. That was not Doug Baldwin. He
yeah,
only had
it's not
100
all Doug
targets.
Baldwin. There's a reason he's 3-4 years in the league, and that's the first time we've seen about it. And
Right.
now there's actually a thing where if he gets more than 7 targets, he actually does pretty well. If he has every time he's had 7 targets in a game, he has like 10 plus fantasy points.
Hmm.
But the problem with the Seahawks, the offense is, they're run based, and especially if Jimmy's healthy, like he's not going to see that many targets on a game by game basis.
No, they're going to be test driving Thomas Rawls. Wilson's going to take some yards away.
Yep.
Those 14 touchdowns, as a side note for Baldwin, that is not going to happen. I'd
No, he
say
led the league in touchdowns. So it's never going to happen again. No.
he'll get 6 or 7,
Yeah.
not
He'll
14.
be worthy of a 6th round pick.
Yeah,
optimistically. And
I'd say
if
7.
anybody takes him in the third or fourth round, I'm just going to be cashing it in, and all that is to me is someone that picked a player that's going to fall to me. Like they're just going to there's another player that's going to fall to me because that person picked someone so far down the board.
And they picked solely off numbers from last year and didn't
Yeah,
look at the whole unit because,
or they live in Seattle and they just love Seattle.
yeah, in which case they're gonna pick, you know, all Seattle players.
All right,
Pick up
so
Hauschka round 3.
yeah. Oh
Smart
man, the
pick.
Seahawks D I've seen just picked absurdly early.
Oh
It's
yeah,
ridiculous. All right, so last player, and then we'll get out of here.
cool. Yeah, I gotta go eat dinner soon.
Yeah,
Getting hungry.
it's about that time. So I'm looking at Kirk Cousins at 85. That's a little much for me that he's even on the list.
That surprises me too.
And he's above guys like Andrew Luck. He's above Derek Carr.
Okay, that's a problem.
Yeah, and I'm just like, look, he had a stretch of decent games, and for fantasy, actually, he was kind of fantasy gold towards the end of the season. There, I actually would have won had I chose to start him instead of Ryan Fitzpatrick on the game on the week 17.
I can't blame you for that though.
Yeah, well, there was talk about him being taken out at halftime, which he was, but he just managed to throw 4 touchdowns prior to that point.
Yeah, yeah.
And that was the game where Ryan Fitzpatrick like imploded and threw 4 interceptions to end the game, which ended up losing me the league. But no sour grapes there.
No, not at all.
But so Kirk Cousins above those guys though. We gotta I think remember that every defense he was playing was in the bottom
Yes.
like 10% of the league at that point. It was like
Yes.
he had just a cream puff schedule, and I'm glad he had some success, and I was glad to have him on my team, during that point in his career in that season. But to be number 85, I don't think he's shown us anything near that level yet.
I do agree, and I will add though, Jordan Reed, that man's a beast. We both have him right behind Gronk, number 2 for tight ends, because Jordan Reed had a lot of their offensive productivity. He had 11 touchdowns, like in 1,000 yards almost. So
Right.
if Kirk Cousins will do well, and that is going to directly benefit Jordan Reed. So definitely grab Jordan Reed. I would grab Jordan Reed even before Eifert for Cincinnati, before Greg Olson, Colby Fleener. Well, I guess or Colby Fleener, everyone really. But take Gronk first. But Jordan Reed's going to be a solid choice.
Right. Yeah. For Jordan Reed, I'm a little bit particular. I'm never going to be a guy that takes Gronk in the first round. That's just not who I am.
Same here.
Now, Jordan Reed, you're probably seeing him go just only a couple rounds later. But this is a guy that when he first came on the scene, I picked him up off like the waiver wire, and he was great for a couple games, but he can never stay healthy. He had
Yes.
concussion on concussion. He's got knee issues, and he finally kind of kept it together for I think it was about 12 games last year, with kind of a long stretch there towards the end, and. If he can do that, then yeah, he's worthy of that number 2 ranking, and someone that drafts him in the 4th round or so is going to be really happy that they did. But I think there's such a small chance of that happening. I think you're never going to be able to trust him to be around when you need him the most. Especially like tight end position is like it's so thin otherwise that if you spend your 4th round draft pick on that guy, you're not replacing him with a Greg Olson or a Ladarius Green. You're replacing him with
Like Martellus Bennett.
Yeah, if even that, man, I feel like people are gonna be high on him. Like I'm talking like maybe Jared Cook or Charles Clay or someone like really in a backup role. So you're losing the benefit of that, and that's coming at the cost of picking up someone like we were talking about earlier, like like a Jarvis Landry or someone like a good wide receiver too, or maybe one of those quarterbacks that falls. So it's a little rich for my blood, but if it works out for someone, I'd say all the better to him.
Right on, man. Should we
All
get
right.
out of here and go have dinner?
Yep, let's get out of here, man. Thank you guys for listening to the Factor Fantasy Football Podcast. We're going to try and record at least once a week, get it around maybe Wednesday each week.
Cool.
Next week, we're going to come up with a mock draft. We're going to be sitting and doing a live mock draft, commenting on how that's going and what our picks and say how we feel about our teams, and do a little bit more top 100 review. So be sure to check us out on Twitter. I'm Brent Young. and John is going to make his pretty soon here. I don't think he has one quite yet.
I'll get around to it.
You can email us at factorfantasypod. That's just POD at the end at gmail.com. And again, the website is youngbw.github.com. You can check out our rankings there, and we've got links to all sorts of like ADP and other sites rankings and stuff like that. All right, till next time.
All right, cool guys. Take care.